Welcome to Sacred Spaces Advanced School of Ancestral Communication. I am Queen Carlenia Springer, and we are coming today to talk to our Afro-Rakanu and Afro-Right Kaitnut family, our African Black family, about our roots, about who we are, regardless of where we find ourselves on the planet, regardless of our ethnicity. It is our roots that bind us. We are the mothers and fathers of humanity, and humanity has been brought to her knees. And we are here to restore the truth. You know, in the Pert M. Heru, misnomered or misnamed the Egyptian Book of the Dead, in there, in one of the texts, it says, I have come to speak the truth and to set the scales of justice in their proper place among those who have no voice. Our people have lost our collective voice. It is still within us. And there are those of us who are speaking. And if you have been feeling the urge to speak, it is time. It is time to speak, because the ancestors and the ancestresses are speaking. We operate within God's system, within the jurisdiction, the ancestral jurisdiction, the jurisdiction of Mother and Father God. But throughout the corruption, throughout the invasions, throughout colonialism, a lot of our information has been stolen, corrupted, fed back to us, lost. They tried to erase it. It will never be erased. And so we come to bring this information to you so that we can restore, we can reconstitute ourselves, our families, and our community worldwide. We come to bring the light of consciousness of who we are. And I want to talk to you today about protection. Let me just blow this out. I just wanted to use it as an example. I want to talk to you about protection and where our protection lies. Our protection lies in our roots. We cannot operate in the manner, and you all have heard me say this, of other people and expect to thrive or even survive. One of the Adinkra symbols, and this is an Adinkra symbol, the symbol of life. One of the Adinkra symbols is of a crocodile. And the proverb, the wisdom teaching that goes along with that Adinkra symbol says, a crocodile lives in the water but breathes air. And what it is teaching us is that we are not the same as others. If that crocodile sought to operate in the manner of the other entities around it, it would die. If it sought to breathe like the fish or the plants in the ocean, in the water, it would die because it breathes air. There would be a violation. And because who we are has been taken and corrupted, we are in violation of natural laws. This is a symbol of the goddess Ma'at, who stands for law and justice. When we think of balancing the scales, our heart being weighed against a feather, we're talking about Ma'at and her counterpart Ma'ah, the abosom of law and justice. Abosom, Orisha, Vodou. These are the spirit forces in creation that operate only in alignment with Mother and Father God. And so as a people, we have been doing our best to thrive in a society that moves against us, against who we are at our very core, at our very core. So I want to talk to you about protection today, because I see, in the news from time to time, we're hearing stories, and I know we don't hear them all, but we hear stories of our children or young people being bullied, and they don't all survive that bullying. Many times they are killed, and they're killed by people that they thought were friends, people who looked like them, people who hung around them. And I'm sure they had some inclination at some point in time that something with their so-called friends' behavior was off. But again, because we live in a society that has us focusing our attention outside of us and not paying attention to what is inside, we oftentimes look for proof. And if we don't find proof, we dismiss the information that we are receiving as not valid. But when it comes to a life or death situation, that's a permanent situation. And so I want to talk to us about our emotions. When we think about water, water represents our emotions. You know, water can be boiling hot. Think about when you get very angry and how you feel inside of your body. You can be carrying water, and it may be a pot of water, but if you're carrying it for a long time, that little pot of water begins to get very, very heavy. So some of us are carrying emotional weight that we're not supposed to carry, that we are supposed to release. But perhaps we haven't found that place of release, and that water is weighing us down. Our thoughts, our feelings are weighing us down. Thoughts literally carry um, carry weight that can be measured electrically. It can be measured. Our thoughts literally can be measured. And so when we're walking around carrying weight, not knowing how to release this emotional weight, what happens, I have this cup of water, we begin to leak water, emotions. Maybe we pour into others. We give in spite of what we feel. And the water that we have, which is the medicine that we carry, it keeps dwindling, dwindling, dwindling. And it gets low to the point where we can barely function. And we're giving, giving, giving. And our cup is empty. We can't give from an empty cup. And this is where you begin to see people experiencing depression, um, bipolar, schizophrenia, all types of disruptions. And yet, as Afro-Wakanda and Afro-White people, there's an endless reservoir that we can tune into that can fill that cup. And that is the reservoir of the ancestral jurisdiction. It is a reservoir of mother and father God, which as we're pouring out is pouring into us. As we pour out is constantly pouring into us. And this is what happens when we come to the altar. We begin to clear the debris. We begin to, at the altar, begin to release those toxic feelings and emotions. It is in this place where as we release, we are fed. And as we are fed, the weight of the emotions that block our ability to see in the spirit, to hear in the spirit, to sense, to feel, to navigate based on what we are receiving. This is where we experience this cleansing, and it's so necessary for us to come on a daily basis, especially now when the heat, the fire has been turned up in the world, a fire of destruction. It's time for us to come together and begin to cleanse, to heal, to teach our children, because they're unable to discern who is for them and who is not, who is telling the truth and who is lying. And even if they get a sense, they oftentimes don't know what to do about that. You see, what's coming to mind is a story of a mother who, her young son was about to graduate. And this is a true story, and I believe he was killed a couple of years ago now. I don't know if it's fully 2 years, but he was murdered by a young man that she opened her home to, someone that he thought was his friend. She thought was his friend. And so if we as parents don't even discern within our children's friends who is for them and who is not, how can our children discern that? We know that our children don't always listen to us, but many times as parents, we can tell when our child brings a young man or young woman, we can tell if they're trouble or not, or something's off. We might not be able to put our finger on it, Our grandparents can look and say, well, no, that one, leave that one alone. And then you know when they don't listen and they go behind your back or they sneak and they deal with that individual, you know it's trouble that's coming. But they were at least warned. I'm seeing too many stories where our children are being taken out by people that they thought were their friends. And even if they had, because what I would hear is like in hindsight, they could see something felt uncomfortable. They acted on something. They acted a little differently. But this is after they're gone. We have to come back to our core. We have to come back to our center. We have to come back to our roots in order to protect ourselves, in order to protect our children. We know, how many times do we hear stories about something that was going to happen? I can think about 9/11, and I was in a class at that time with students who came from outside the country and from other states. But we had quite a number of people who lived and worked in New York City and passed through the Twin Towers to go to work. One person I know actually worked in that building, and he was on the top floor that morning, and he died. He was able to call his family and say, the place has been hit and there's no fire where I am, but there's no way for me to get on the ground. And so he was able to say goodbye. But I have many more classmates who, for seemingly different reasons, one, their shoelace burst. They had to go to a store to get a lace for their shoes. Somebody, the bus was delayed. Somebody, they missed, I don't know if they missed their train, but everybody had something that delayed them or that stopped them that morning. And if it hadn't stopped them, if they had pushed through to get to work on time in spite of what was going on, they would not be here today. They would be dead. And so you too may have stories like that. But this is a time where we have to come in closer so we can hear. Not what is happening out here. This is noise. This will confuse you. All of this out here will confuse you. It will confuse your children. We have to be able to protect our children, whether we are there or not. More than just telling them to pray, thank God for this and thank God. No, there's a different level of communication that happens moment to moment. Go here, do this, stop, wait. And they get this communication in different ways. It may be how I said it. Maybe you hear the voice. Maybe you just discern. Maybe you see pictures. Maybe you just get a feeling. Or you're just acting and you don't even know exactly why you're acting that way. Or you may get a vision, what some may call a daydream. You're awake, but you're seeing something else going on here. And it's showing you what you need to do or what you need to stay away from. Or it may be showing you a person, and the feeling that you get. These are conversations we have to have with our children. But when we come to the altar, when we make it a practice to come to the altar, it begins to alter our awareness. And we have people out here 24/7 seeking to alter our awareness, and it is not for our good. It is not for our good. And so I just wanted to bring that information to you. It's time for us to begin to protect ourselves and to protect our children, but from the inside out. You can only control certain things going on outside of you. Many things are beyond our locus of control, but we can control what goes on here. We can become aware of what is going on here. And when we become aware of what is going on, we begin to know what thoughts to reject and what thoughts to accept. When we come into alignment with Mother and Father God and the Abosom that the Orisha, the Vodou, the spirit force in creation that they place to govern our very soul, our divine consciousness, we naturally repel the spirits of disorder. Ashe.